Today, I'm talking with Laura from Forever West Weddings and Events. She is a wedding planner based out of Wyoming. She's originally from the East Coast, grew up in Virginia, and was exposed to that Southern hospitality. She is a self-proclaimed mountain girl, and at the first chance she could get, she moved out west and now lives and resides in Wyoming. And today, if you're thinking about hiring a wedding planner and you stumbled across her, hopefully this video is really helpful for you and getting to know who she is and why she might be a good fit for you. Tell me what it was like growing up in the East and then coming out to the West.
Yeah, there are major differences. I feel lucky that I grew up in a family that always exposed us to lots of different outdoor activities. So even though I grew up on the East Coast, I grew up skiing and snowboarding and rock climbing and riding horses and things like that. So I feel like they almost groomed me for moving out west someday. But I feel like some of the biggest differences in regards to events are definitely like the event spaces. So I grew up attending mostly weddings at country clubs and things like that. Debutante balls and things like that were a part of my world growing up. And then moving out west, I think you see a lot more casual venues and the ranches and things like that, which I love. I love them both. But I think in regards to the event world, those venues are just quite a difference.
So what was it about Wyoming then that made it the right fit for you?
So I initially moved to Wyoming after doing a month-long NOLS course. It was NOLS is the National Outdoor Leadership School, and I just fell in love with the mountains and the terrain and the attitudes of the people. And so then I moved actually to Wyoming to a little town called Lander to work for NOLS as an account manager. And I worked for them for 2 years working in this department that was so amazing called custom education. So we planned custom outdoor backpacking trips for universities and groups. So we worked with NASA, we worked with Georgetown University, all kinds of groups setting up backpacking trips for them. And so I learned a lot about logistics and things like that in that career. And then I met my husband and Wyoming stuck after that.
Did you meet your husband at NOLS?
No, not at NOLS, but we met living in Lander. He was a very attractive rock climber.
That's great. I love it. And when did you get married?
We got married 2 years ago.
So a COVID wedding.
Yes, a COVID wedding, big time. We had this very elaborate, destination wedding to Norway planned. And then we had to cancel the whole thing and do it in Wyoming, but it worked out.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you guys got married in Wyoming. It's beautiful, but
I don't think my business would have sparked if we hadn't gotten married in Wyoming. So everything works out the way it's supposed to.
So what then got you into wedding planning? I could take a guess, but
yeah. So I've always loved planning parties, and not just planning them because I like organizing and because I like making everything beautiful, but I like planning parties and getting the lighting just right and the music just right and the food just right so that people connect. I feel like when you go into parties at some people's homes, the overhead lights are on and either really loud music is playing or no music is playing, and it just doesn't create an environment where people can make new friends or reconnect with family and really want to linger. And growing up, my mom and aunt and grandma always planned these parties where people would stay till 2 o'clock in the morning just at our house and end up dancing in the kitchen and things like that. And it was just because all of those little elements that not everybody realizes are what actually cause people to connect with each other. So that is like the heart of why I got into it. And so then living out here in Wyoming, I tried to plan my own wedding here in Wyoming. And actually, my business kind of came out of this point of extreme frustration. Not only was I planning my wedding during COVID, but so many vendors out here just operate purely on word of mouth. They do no marketing whatsoever. They're not on The Knot. They're not on Wedding Wire. You have to know somebody to know about them. The town we lived in doesn't even have a bakery, but there are 6 amazing bakers here in town. But you have to know about them, if that makes any sense. And we were relatively new in town and I didn't know about anybody. And I could only imagine if you're planning a destination wedding from the East Coast out here, or even from Denver, or even from, a lot of the brides I work with live in Laramie or in Denver or on the East Coast or in Chicago, and they're trying to plan these weddings out here and they can't figure it out. They can't figure out where to get rentals or who to get a cake from or things like that. And I felt that when I was planning my wedding. So I was like, I have to share this information with other people so they don't lose their minds like I did trying to figure it out. So I almost felt it was easier planning a wedding in Norway than I did in Wyoming without help.
That's really funny. I have some friends in the industry who are looking to build a house in Victor, so just over the mountains from Wyoming. And they messaged me and like, hey, do you know any builders? Like, we can't, like, they don't do marketing. Like, the websites are horrible. We just don't know who's who. Like, we can't determine it. But again, it's like what you were saying. It's very that word of mouth. People pass it around. People know. So you just have to like kind of get in with the locals to figure it out, which it sounds like that's what you were experiencing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that you are into wedding planning, what is it that you specifically love about it? Why do clients book you? What do you bring to the table that just like solves that solution for them?
I think what I love about it is being able to help couples come together during the wedding planning process. I think the planning process can often be a point that actually divides couples. If someone is feeling really frustrated or feeling like a lot of the burden is on them, then I think that can be almost a pain point in a time of life that should be amazing and joyful. And so I think the couples that find me are often looking for help in this process, but also want to work on the wedding together. And so I love getting to sit down. I have monthly meetings with my full service planning clients, and a lot of the times they are with both people in the party and in the couple, and we just talk. We get to know each other. We work on specific tasks, and then at the end of each meeting, I have some takeaway tasks. They have some planning tasks that only they can do, and both people in the wedding, in the couple, work on things. And so I think that is really fun and joyful for me. And I like being able to help take some of the stress off the couple and sort of put that on myself, and then also keep them in it together as opposed to a process that can sometimes push people apart.
No, that makes total sense. I'm sure there's somebody listening to that right now who's like, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense. And that's where we're at. What kind of weddings stand out to you that you're like, I just love planning these kind of weddings? Like, I think you would say something like multi-day events where people just make it a whole experience. Talk to me about like, what's an ideal wedding for you? Because you're just like, I can really knock that one out of the park.
Weddings that I can totally knock out of the park are multi-day events. So I was in the travel industry. So in my experience at Knowles, I planned week-long events and excursion trips for people and coordinated a lot of logistics around travel and things like that. And then after that career, I worked in the travel industry, booking trips all over the world for people. And so lots of complicated logistics were involved in that. So I was booking flights and travel and lodging and things like that. And so I think that those multi-day events that really allow people to come together and make memories with the people that they care about are the events that I love. Also love intimate weddings with small groups of people where you're just coming out to Wyoming with your core people and enjoying making memories with them, I think is sort of my ideal.
If you guys want to know more about Laura, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, gosh, let's connect, you should go to her website at Forever West Weddings and Events. Thanks so much, Laura. And if you guys are curious too, we're going to make another video and talk all about wedding venues in Jackson Hole. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the link to that in the description.